What makes most women start a business? Is it passion, money, or freedom? Welcome to the Female Founders, the podcast that takes you behind the scene with women who are founders and CEOs to help you start and scale a successful business of your own. I am your host, Nagilia de Ravin. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Female Founders. Today I'll be having a conversation with Rayna Schroeder, CEO of Positive Impact Leaders. With over 30 years in leadership development and 20 years as a certified coach, Rayna helps leaders find joy, clarity, and purpose. Good morning, Rayna. A pleasure having you with me today. So how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Nagilia, for having me on the show. I'm looking forward to a fun conversation.
I am looking forward to. I feel like I'm going to have a lot of fun with you today.
All right.
But what inspired you to start Positive Impact Leaders? What impact do you hope to create through your work?
I so appreciate that question. And I'd like to share by way of a story. I can remember a time back in the early 2000s where I felt like my soul was dying a little bit every day when I went into the office. Hopefully none of your listeners can relate. They're not in that miserable space. But back then, I think there were two big reasons for why I felt the way I did. One was certainly me and my mindset, looking at everyone else for the problem rather than looking in the mirror. And another was the leadership team that I was working with at the time. Because I think if you're a leader, you can create one of two environments. The first environment invites people in, makes them excited to be there, and they can perform at their best and give back to something that's really important to them. The other environment I think leaders can create makes people want to run away and quit. And sometimes people do just that. They quit mentally and emotionally, but they still show up physically for the paycheck. Worst of all worlds in my mind, to just go through the motions. So I was able to turn that around. That was almost 20 years ago, and rediscover joy and fulfillment at work through a lot of hard work and a lot of research. So now I help my clients do that. They can learn from everything that I've learned in a much more condensed period of time to do what you said, to rediscover joy and fulfillment at work, to lead in a way that uplifts others, and to create great places to work, because it makes such a difference.
So I'm guessing that's the reason why you start the company?
Completely. Life is way too short to be miserable, especially at work, since we spend so much of our time there. And I'm curious, I know you're the interviewer, but are you okay if I ask you a couple of questions?
Sure, go for it.
Okay,
Wow,
thanks.
Cool.
First question is, have you ever worked for a bad boss?
I think most of us can say yes, and I'm one of them.
Yeah. And how did that make you feel? What was that like?
I think mostly it's you don't belong. I think that's one of them for me. I feel like I didn't belong there. And second, I feel like I felt like life itself was worthless. Because the reason for that, you have to look at it. You wake up in the morning. Let's say you wake up at 6 a.m. I'm an early bird. You wake up 6 a.m., get ready. You get in the car by 7. You get to the office, let's say by 8. Probably your shift will start at 8:30. From that time until 5 p.m., and sometimes if you're in leadership position, you're even there until 7, 8 p.m. at night. So you're getting home. So imagine you spend 10 hours at work and having a bad boss just bossing you around. I mean, when I say bossing, I mean bossing around.
Right.
And as a woman, and adding to it as a Black woman, that makes it even worse because sometimes you do the job, you stay late, and somebody else get credit for the job. So your boss get credit for it. You never really get credit for it. The boss like that usually are not the best because as a leader, you need to give credit for your team. Don't get me wrong, me, myself, as a leader, I usually take all the blames. So if something happened, I take the blames for my team. But I usually switch it around when it's come to giving the credit. Even if I was a part of it, I usually put the credit and other women that support me. I usually put the credit on my teams. So that's just who I am, right? Because I want to keep lifting people up. I want to keep making them, even the contribution was a 1% out of what I was doing, For me, that was a lot because I didn't have that help and someone gave me that 1%. But to my past positions when I was working for someone, it wasn't the same. And that was how would I say that? Run away. Like I feel like sometimes you just want to pick up
Yes, you just
your
want to run
purse and just
away and
when
quit.
like
Yeah.
I was speaking, like I'm just gonna run away from this place
Right.
because I don't want to be here. And to tell you the truth, there was one time I actually left. I had a conversation with my boss and I pick up my purse and I didn't say anything and I just walk away. But a voicemail was left for me that I have 24 hours to get back to work or I'm fired. So again, you looked at it. I looked at it. Yeah, I have to pay the bills.
Yes. I'm glad that
24
you came to
hours.
that. I'm glad you came to that realization. And we've both left jobs because of bad bosses, and I'm sure people listening have done that too. And because it makes such a difference, being in an environment where you said you weren't given credit for your work, you had to work all these long hours, and you didn't feel appreciated, and that makes such a difference in the results that an organization gets. I'm a
Yes.
bit of a research junkie, so I'll share some research in our conversation. We know from research, this came from the Hay Group with Daniel Goleman. He's kind of the father of emotional intelligence. And their research revealed that the styles that leaders choose to use have a direct impact on what it feels like to work there. And what it feels like to work there, our leaders, our bosses create a certain atmosphere or a climate working for them. And that's what's called organizational climate. What does it feel like to work here? And leaders, their styles have up to a 70% impact on what it feels like to work here. And that could be really bad. You're not motivated. You're not appreciated. And that impacts the results that an organization gets. So now let me ask the flip question. Have you had a chance to work for a really good boss?
Actually, yeah, I did. It's kind of funny. It was for the same company.
Fascinating, because there can be little organizational climates depending on the people that are leading it.
Well, it's kind of funny. Instead of me quitting, I decided to take a different route.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I go to the bigger boss.
Talk about the best route ever when you get to be the boss, speaking as one.
So I did. I went to the bigger boss and I explained how I feel, what was going on, and how my team under me was feeling.
Ah.
And it was a bad environment for them in general. And I asked that not to take my words for it and to supervise it themselves.
That was brilliant. Tell
Supervise
me
it
what
themselves.
happened. What happened?
And they did. They took a few months, they did. And then one day I come to work and I was promoted and I took the position he has and he was fired. And it was the weirdest thing ever. Because I just ended up with his position. So now I end up with a bigger team, but it was fun to be able to lead a bigger team because that team was also, I was one of them and they were in a lot of pain. But again, the fact that I went to the top, now the person I went to become my boss, which was a lot easier to talk with. And again, it was a man, but in a different perspective. Like he will listen to what you have to say.
Yeah.
And he will ask you, what do you think I should do about it? And for me, that was a big thing because usually I don't have a boss that asks me, what should I do about it? Usually they just do whatever they want to do about it. And usually it's not in your best benefit. And for that one, he was a little bit different. He'll ask you, what should I do about it? And you'll give the advice and you'll see the change from himself little by little. And it was the biggest thing. He was the type of man. He wasn't a mean person. You need to get to know him. But when you see his face, you don't want to talk to him. Like just his face is kind of like, yeah, I'm not talking to this guy. But that's the reason why no one ever got talk to him about the other boss before. And I did. And one time we were talking, and I said, you know, a lot of people scared of you. And I was one of them. And he said, why? I'm like, your face. You are always serious, way too serious for a job. He said, you think so? I'm like, yeah. I said, when you wake up in the morning, next day, look at your face in the mirror. And the funny thing is, after a few months later, he was telling me, he said, I went home and I asked my wife, how's my face look like in the morning? And my wife said, people run and run away. You look like you're too serious to go to work. But he started to change. He'll smile. When he goes to meeting, he'll smile, he'll
It
laugh,
makes a
he'll tell
difference.
jokes.
Makes
And
a
that makes a
difference.
huge difference.
It
So
does.
that was the difference between the two bosses.
And I love it. When you talk about the boss that you had a chance to work for, that was a really good boss, that actually, and I love the story that they actually came and supervised themselves. I can't think of a better way to learn. But when you talk about working for a good boss, you light up, I mean, and we all do that. We all do that. There was an article in Harvard Business Review back in, I think it was 2022. And the title was, the best leaders have a contagious, positive energy, an energy that uplifts us, renews us, makes us enthusiastic. When these people come in a room, we light up, just like you did when you were telling your story, as opposed to the bad bosses that I dare say light up a room when they leave. So figuring out who you are as a leader, how you show up, and how you impact other people, that's what brings me joy. That's my personal mission, is helping leaders figure out how to tap into the best parts of themselves, show up as their best selves, so that they can help others show up as their best as well.
And I think that's the best way to go as well. But you also help leaders move from feeling stuck to discovering joy, like you said earlier. Also,
right.
What do you think holds most leaders back from feeling fulfilling in the roles?
Great question, and this could be a 3-hour conversation. So I think the place to start is foundationally, it's what's in your way, what's blocking you, what are you focused on, and how can you be focusing on what are your strengths, what brings you joy, what makes you happy, how can you tap into the best parts of ourselves? Because I think of how we show up in the world can come from one of two places. One is our fight or flight brain. And when we're in that place, we are afraid, we are anxious, we are stressed, we are overwhelmed. And that's not the best place to come from. That's not, because when we're focused on fight or flight, what happens to our brain is we get very narrowly focused, and we're focused just on ourselves. And we tend to focus on what's wrong with ourselves, what's wrong with the world, what's wrong with my life. And if that's the lens you're looking through all the time, it's really hard to find that joy and to be happy, much less be contagiously happy to others. So one of the foundational things is to help leaders recognize that they can choose, they can make that shift from that fight or flight where I'm focused on me to let me tap into that calm, positive, wise part of myself. And I can be empathetic from that place. I can be curious from that place. I can connect to others more easily. The analogy I use is if you're walking down a dark tunnel and you're operating from that fight or flight place, it's like all you see is one light at the end of the tunnel. All you want to do is feel safe. You just want to feel better. You don't want to be anxious or stressed. So all of your energy and resources are funneled that way. But if you're walking down that same dark tunnel and you're in a positive place mentally and emotionally, it's like you see 7 or 8 lights at the end of the tunnel. You see lots of options. You're more optimistic. Our peripheral vision literally expands when we're in that positive place. Again, research junkie. So it makes all the difference. And when we can tap into the best parts of ourselves, I have to tell you a secret. We are incredibly wise and smart. And if we can just tap into those parts of ourselves, we're amazing. We're amazing people. Each and every one of us.
After 30 years in leadership development and also 20 years as a certified coach, what are some of the biggest changes you've seen in how leaders approach growth and success?
I'm so excited in what I'm seeing in the field of leadership development.
That much of a change, huh?
I won't say that much of a change, but I will say, I've been in this field for a long time. And at first, coaching, which is mostly what I do, coaching and workshops, coaching focused on fixing people. And now it's a bonus to have a coach. Leaders are working with coaches because they want to elevate to the next level, because they really want to grow, and they're making that investment in themselves. Their companies are making that investment in themselves because they're recognizing how I show up as a leader makes a huge difference, not just for my people, but for the results that my organization gets. And that's the fun that I've seen, that's been that transformation over time, is people are really excited and interested in this. And I also have a background, not just in business, but I have a background in positive psychology, the study of what makes us happy and thrive and perform at our best. And so for me, it's been a lot of fun sharing those tools, the research with clients, so that they can be, I can give them the tools, and then after we've worked together, they can implement it. I'm not somebody that has to be in their lives all the time, years and years from now. I like to give people tools. I'll check back in on a regular basis. And then people have the ability to just not only do this themselves, but the really fun part is when they share this with their team, so their team gets to learn, okay, how do I be lastingly happier and more fulfilled on a regular basis? How do I tap into that amazing, wise, calm part of myself on a regular basis? It's contagious, not just at work. They do it for their families too. So it's like a ripple in a pond. You start with one person, but the ripples go out to a lot more people.
And but you think that that will continue to grow?
I do. I do. I'm an optimist, and I believe that when people have been able to come from that place where my clients talk about being more clear on their decision making, being more confident, being happier, being able to tap into that empathetic, wise parts of themselves. I had one client talk about going from overwhelmed to being overjoyed for their leadership
Ooh,
journey. And when you can do that, I think it's impossible not to be contagious to other people. So I'm
oh
hoping
yeah.
these ripples of positive energy and positive leaders, just continue to grow and grow.
But you work with the leaders. So when you're training, do you do training for the companies? Let's say we pick Google. You do training for the leaders within a company like Google, or do the leaders reach out outside of the company and say, "Hey, I need your help. Can you support me?"
I do a bit of both. So sometimes it's the companies are looking for me. They might have heard me speak or have heard me on a podcast like this and ask for my help. I also, because I live in the DC, Maryland area, I have some government contracts where they reach out to me to do some leadership coaching, either with individual leaders, group coaching with groups of leaders, or the leader and their team, or to be able to do workshops with all kinds of people, from as small as 5 to I think I've 350 people. So it really all depends on what the organization needs. And because I do both training and coaching, for me it's important to put those two together. As much as I love the work that I do, hearing me speak for 30 minutes or an hour or even a day, it's not enough, because so much of what we do is based on habit. So you have to figure out,
Yes.
how do I get this into my life more regularly? So it means regular conversations and trying things, and coming back, and what worked and what didn't work, and why didn't that work, and exploring that. So for me, it's that ongoing coaching conversation until people can develop some of these habits. And then once they've developed the habits, then they have the tools they need to just keep going and to keep growing.
Like you talk about workshops.
Mhm.
So, what's one lesson you always hope participants take away from your sessions?
Oh, what a fun question. Um, for me, it's all about taking some action. If you just hear something and it was amazing, and then you don't do anything with it, it's almost as if you didn't hear it at all. So for me, it's I love the ending conversations where I ask people, what's one thing you really appreciated about what you heard today, and how are you going to implement it going forward? And then I have people have conversations at their tables, and some people will say, "Oh, I want to try the what went well activity or exercise," or some people say, I want to be a little more self-aware. So I'm going to start watching how I show up. And am I a positive influence or a negative influence? Or I'm going to try tapping into the best parts of myself using this tool that you shared. And I love that because it really is taking that knowledge and implementing it so that it can be useful going forward.
And I like that too. And I think a lot of time you have coaching and then you go to coaching, but you learn something, but it's like school, right? When you go to school, you learn things,
Right.
but until you actually really go to the real world and start practicing, it's just like when you're a doctor. So you learn all these things you're supposed to be doing, how to take the blood, which is I don't want to do, by the way, all this, all that things, and then really the real thing is when you are doing it with the patient. Are you doing it the right way or not? So I think that's the same thing with your coaching, right? It's
Right.
what you're trying to do is teach them, not just teaching them how to do it, but to go out there and do it and understanding the mistakes they are making when they are doing and make the change that they need to make within themselves to be great on what they do. I feel like that's where you come in when it's come to your coaching.
It's exactly it. I'm going to put you on my podcast and have this clip on my website. You said it so beautifully.
You are so funny. So, what is your coaching philosophy, and how does your strength-based approach help leaders create lasting change?
Oh, again, love the question. So my philosophy is to help leaders tap into the best of themselves. And my strengths-based approach is the first conversation we have is what are your gifts and your strengths? How can we leverage those? Because while we can grow with the lens of, well, what's wrong with me and what do I need to fix? We know from the research, you get so much more growth when you focus on your strengths. Do the things that you're good at, that you enjoy doing, and build on that. That's where the incremental growth really is. And being able to have those conversations in a way that again is focused on what the leader's purpose is that they see for their leadership. What are their values? What is their vision? What difference do they want to make in the world? And it's unique. Everybody wants to make a difference, but we all want to make it in our unique way. And so
Yes.
I like to say our influence, which really to me is what leadership is about, our influence is uniquely ours. So figuring out what your unique way to influence the world is, that's the gift I get from coaching and working with others.
Now let's talk a little bit about women and leadership. That's a big topic. We can talk about it all day, by the way. But a lot of women struggle when it's come to self-doubt in leadership world, and it's normal, I will say, because
Yeah.
that is not something. It's not because we are not leaders. It's just not something that we were born to do in a way, I feel like, because when you go back in time, people looked at it, the woman, we cook, we clean, we take care of the kids, we do all these things at home, right? But we don't go to the office and lead or teach and do all these things. It takes a while before we get to these positions. And now we're doing a lot better. But even then, at a certain position, we still end up with self-doubt because the way people looked at us and what are they thinking about me? Is my boss thinking I'm doing a great job? The people under me think that I'm doing all right? So a lot of self doubt self doubt will happen. So, what advice would you give to women who want to step into leadership with more confidence?
Oh, um, for me, it really is figuring out how to tap into the calm, wise, positive part of our brain. Because each of us have these negative voices in our head. It's almost like it's on a tape or a record. I'm not good enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not fill in the blank enough. And figuring out how to turn down those negative voices and how to turn up our positive voices, the wise, the empathetic, the curious, the connected to my core values and what's really important to me and taking action on that, I think is key. And I'll share, I have a really fun class. For me, it was a class that I took last year, and I was so excited about it. I found it life transforming. That now I deliver that workshop to other people. It's a 7-week workshop on how you can turn down those negative voices and turn up those positive voices. And for me, it made such a difference. And for clients that I've already used it with, they talk about how their confidence has increased. And especially for the women that I've done this with, there will always be those negative voices in our heads, for
Yes.
women, for all of us. But to be able to recognize those voices, to say, okay, that's not me. That's just my fight or flight brain that wants to keep me safe. It doesn't want me to stretch. It doesn't want me to speak out. They recognize, thank you very much, but I've got this. And now I'm going to tap into my confident, wise, positive self. And the more that people do that, the more confident they get. It builds on itself. Again, wonderfully fun work to see that in action.
But you also co-authored a book, Becoming a Servant Leader.
Yes.
But how does servant leadership play a role in the way you coach and guide others?
So the book came about because one of my core philosophies is that leadership is about serving the people you lead. And that's what servant leadership is all about. It's not about power. It's not about money. It's not about turf. It really is about being of service to the people you lead. If I'm a leader, how can I help you be better? What tools do you need? Are you feeling appreciated or unappreciated? Are employees supporting you? And do you feel like I care about you as a leader? To me, those are the things that a servant leader does. And I've believed in that philosophy my whole life. And so that's how the book came about. And so I talk about leadership philosophies and help leaders craft that leadership philosophy of being of service to others. And when you can look through that lens, sometimes it's a different way to look at leadership. But again, for leaders that, my ideal clients are for leaders that really want to make a difference in the world. And it doesn't have to be a big difference. It can just be a small difference, but who really want to make that difference. And one of the best ways to make that difference is to be of service, to help others, to help the world be a better place.
It's great to have, you have no idea how important it is when women just step in. Um, the mind should just flow by itself, right? Because other women just will want to keep on follow. And it's the funny thing ever is that you don't really know about it because they don't come and tell you. They're just watching you in the shadow and following what you are doing. And and I've seen it a lot, and I've seen women a lot. I don't know if you receive those messages. Say, "Hey, I've been following you. I love what you're doing." I'm like, "Oh, okay, thanks." But it's and I start following them, and I realize that she's doing what I'm doing. It's funny she start doing it, but why? But it's like you when it make that step saying, "I don't like the way I'm being treated here, and I can do better." And I'm going to create what women can use to become, or even anyone can use to become a leader. And that's what you did. But imagine if you didn't take that step. Imagine if you're just like, well, I need the paycheck. If I quit, I might not be able to pay the bills. Yeah, things not gonna work out too well for me. So I'm just gonna sit in that chair, get scream at, and put a fake smile. That works out very well. And that's what a lot of people are doing it every single day because they need that paycheck. And a few of us are bold enough. When you say you're going to start a company on your own, you're going to start a business on your own, you're taking a chance here. And a lot of time we're starting by using the money we have, we are saving for when we got fired. So now we're using that money to start a company. And we don't know when we're going to get a penny from starting that company because first we got to go build trust with people to even believe we can even do this in the first place. And as women, it's even tougher for us. So what I'm trying to say is what you are doing is amazing. You took a step forward that is making a difference and for other women. and for other people as well. But I always speak for women because I believe that we are great on what we do. And even a lot of people say that women are not born leaders, and I don't believe anyone were born a leader. It's something you choose to do or you don't choose to do it. But it's within all of us. If you want to do it, you have it within you that you can use it. When you look at women, they say they handle the house. What do you think a woman is doing when she's handling the house? Leadership. You are leading
Absolutely.
the
Juggling a
home.
million things to do, scheduling, delegating, organizing. She's doing all of that. You're right.
The children, they think that, for me, I looked at it. If you have 5 children, you have 5 full-time jobs. If you have one, you have one full-time job. And then on top of it, don't forget to add the husband as another full-time job. So if you have one kid, so you have one kid as a full-time job. So you add the husband as a second full-time job. Now you have 2 kids full-time job. Because that's how I look at men. They're like that little kid sometimes that can just drop down, has just a little baby for you to spoil and do something with. So I don't think people looked at all of that, is that we have been leading for centuries. And leading a home is even harder, going and get a job as a leader.
Because then you have 2 jobs.
Yes, you're making decisions for your family that can, sometimes you don't know what's going to happen with this decision you are making. And it's the same for the workplace as well. So people have to look at it that way too. So we have been leading for years, for centuries, for a long time. We just need a chance, and we need people to guide us when we get to the workforce, to take that leadership skill we already have to a workforce. And there's not much different between them.
Yes. Beautifully said. You're an inspiration yourself. These conversations that you have with leaders and founders and CEOs of companies, having these kind of conversations. Again, you are one of those ripples in the pond that have a chance to spread and empower and make other leaders, specifically women leaders, more confident. So thank you for the work that you do as well.
Oh, thank you. But what is one common challenge you see leaders face?
It's interesting because I work with lots of different kind of leaders. And what I've learned is people are people. So the same things tend to show up, and it's and the biggest one is feeling completely overwhelmed. There's so much to do when you're in a leadership position. You talked about, all of the things that women have done and, throughout the ages at trying to juggle leading in the house. And then you compound that with leading at work. And the stories that I hear are leaders are there at 6 a.m. and they're in meetings all day long. And then by 6 o'clock at night, they finally have a chance to go through their email, and, they're grabbing lunch here and there. And then they get up and they start it all over again. And that is, think about that day after day after day. That's a recipe for burnout.
Yes,
and that's a really common theme that I see with leadership, is they're just so burned out, and you need to get off the hamster wheel. You cannot continue to operate that way. You need to take that step back and look at things from 30,000 feet. What is working in my work life and my home life, and what isn't working? And how can I find time to recharge my own batteries? Because it's like putting your own mask on first when you're in the airplane.
Yeah.
I say, put your life mask on first. Well, leaders need to do that for themselves. And it's not selfish at all, because when you can fill yourself up with positive energy and you're at your best, that's how you can then give to others.
But for women who want to go as a leader, but don't know where to start, what's the first step they should take, do you think?
I think they should give me a call. And, it almost, I can't believe I'm going to say that, it almost doesn't matter what the first step is that they take. I think they first have to be willing to take any step. it's like you said, you could be sitting there and thinking, I don't like this. I don't like how I'm treated, but I am just going to sit here and suck it up and smile. That just kills the soul. And so I think the first step is recognizing that I have a choice. I have a choice to whether to continue to take this and stay here or to do something different, to reach out to my boss's boss and have a conversation just like you did, or to decide that life is too short to be miserable. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to look for another job even within my own company. I'm going to go work for a leader that I've been hearing about. All these people say that person's great to work for. Well, I want to go work for that person to learn, just to build my skills as to how to be a great leader. So as I said, it almost doesn't matter what the step is. What matters is that they make the choice to take any step to change their situation.
And how can anyone reach out to you?
A couple of ways. One is on my website. My company is Positive Impact Leaders with an S.com. So you can find me there. You can find my recent workshops. That 7-week life transformational class is on there, and a fun coaching program that I'm working on that I'll be launching called Transforming Your Leadership Journey from Is This It to This Is It. And I'm also on LinkedIn. And again, it's Rayna, Rayna Schroeder, and would be delighted to connect and just have some, again, good conversations with people about leadership, because hopefully you can tell this is something I love.
Yes, she does. She loves that. She loves the leadership. And thank you so much, Rayna, for giving me that chance to talk to you. And then also thank you for asking me questions. I never had that before. Maybe I should try it. Yeah. It was a great one. I liked it.
Thank you so much. This was a blast. So I look forward to our next conversation.
I like that one, Aurelia. She's already planning that. You see, that's it later. Thank you for listening to Female Founders Podcast. That's it for this week's episode. Be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast app or connect with us on womel.com so that you don't miss our next episode. See you next time. Bye for now.